So Doofus-in-Chief wants some things changed at the Smithsonian. And this is, again, one of the many examples. This is, again, one of those instances where I'm looking at all these people who are supposedly so small government just going along with things like this, and it's like, there's not a shred of authenticity in you, is there? It's amazing. So I'm going to start by reading from an article from The Guardian that I'm not really sure how much this covers or if his statement is included. I may have to look that up separately. But specifically, I did see that part of his statement said something about they're too focused on what was bad about slavery. Which, by the way, if you're still arguing that Donald Trump is not a white supremacist, I don't know what's wrong with you. Several months ago, he was targeting national parks and wanted visitors to report anything that was not a positive reflection of America. That's not how history works. Okay, the United States of America has done things that, no, do not reflect positively upon us. Just pretending those things didn't happen isn't how reality works. But also, no one should be trying to eliminate historical data to accommodate this bitch. You are a grown man. If you see something you don't like and you crumble like a deck of cards because of it, that's pathetic. So at the top it says exclusive, White House flags 7 institutions, including those for Latino, African, and Asian art for review, document shows. I did see something, I believe it was on Facebook or Blue Sky, so I don't know if it's true, but it was a picture of this blonde woman, looked to be about 26, 27, saying that she was the one in charge of reviewing this stuff. Like, that in and of itself, like, if you want Latino art and displays reviewed, like, and that's the thing, like, they're not even hiding what this is really about. It's so in your face, it's so obvious. So again, this is from The Guardian. Amid the Donald Trump administration's heavy-handed review of Smithsonian museums, The Guardian has seen a document compiled by the White House that details examples of how the administration believes widely visited cultural institutions have overly negative portrayals of U.S. history. We did things that were bad, okay? Get over yourself. We have. Just about every country has. So whenever white people start talking about this stuff, it always becomes this, well, we really don't want it here because it makes white people look bad. And you know what? That's your own thing. I don't believe in white guilt. I never have. I don't respect people who try to push white guilt. But also, white folks who claim to be very much opposed to white guilt seem to have it within themselves. Like, if you were at a museum and you read a display that is about, let's just say, for example, the lynching of an escaped slave. It's this super white town. You've got these vigilante white folks that go with the sheriff or whatever law enforcement was around and help capture this person and hang them. And you view that as a white person and start to feel like, this is saying all white people are bad. Like, that's a you problem. That is not society's problem. That is your issue to work out. Now, that being said, there are people on the left that I disagree with very strongly who want white people to feel guilty about these things. I don't think we should feel guilty about it. I just think we shouldn't be afraid of it. Like, if you can't recognize that certain things happened that were uncomfortable and sad and bad and awful, that's, you need to grow up a little bit. That's called being an adult. Adults should be able to handle difficult things. Adults should be able to handle difficult topics. The document, based on public submissions shared with the administration, points to what it says are problematic exhibits at 7 different museums, including a Benjamin Franklin exhibit that links his scientific achievements to his ownership of enslaved people, and a film about George Floyd's murder that it says mischaracterizes the police. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on folks like Benjamin Franklin, but there's probably truth that enslaved people contributed somewhat to his scientific achievements. Like, that sounds like something that would have occurred in history. So, unless you have evidence that the display is false, leave it be, if it's the truth. This is why I have no patience for people who are like, I like Trump because he tells it like it is. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you have something to say that is a matter-of-fact, truthful statement that he doesn't like, then he doesn't want you to say it. President Trump will explore all options and avenues to get the woke out of the Smithsonian and hold them accountable, a White House official said. Until we get info from the Smithsonian in response to our letter, we can't verify the numbers of artifacts that have been removed because the Smithsonian has removed them on their own. This is another thing from MAGA that has been absolute BS. They cannot define woke. Okay, back in the day, I used to know what they were at least referring to. Now it's literally anything that they just don't like. Now, if you want to use a specific word for things you don't like, whatever, it's cool. But the problem is this. MAGA is acting like anything they call woke is something that is the detriment of this country. Something that we have to fight with everything we've got. Something that is a threat to our very well-being as Americans. So, if you cannot define it, then don't tell me it's a threat. Just don't. Far as I know, woke at this point is anything black or gay. Like, several of the founding fathers owned slaves. Like, that's just a fact. And that free labor probably did contribute to some of the things they accomplished. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to sugarcoat that for you. I don't know how to, I don't know. I don't know what you're going through right now. That is something that you just can't handle. I truly don't know what to say. Trump announced the initiative on Truth Social earlier this week, writing, "The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been." That's, even in just that sentence, there's so much to unpack there. Everything discussed is how horrible our country is. No, I haven't been to the Smithsonian in a while. But museums often, unless they have a very specific focus that is just about something negative in history. Like if I go to a Holocaust museum, I'm not going to expect them to show, okay, well, these are the positives that were also going on at the time. But what ends up in museums is typically anything that was a turning point in the country, anything that had some type of relative historical impact. Obviously, a museum is not going that's about all of American history is not going to cover every single event that's occurred in American history. That being said, people like Trump love to hold on to this idea that the United States of America is this perfect place that's never done anything wrong and should always be viewed with pure patriotism, and anything outside of that is horribly offensive and wrong. And I'm sorry, but that's fake as hell. That's fake. I'm not interested in that at all. In his case, I think he's coming from a much darker place from that because he's a deeply racist person. But this desire that he should never have to be exposed to anything that he just doesn't like. A United States president. But if something offends him in a museum, it needs to be taken down. This is the shit I think about when y'all talk about how strong Trump is. He's aggressive in his language. That's it. That's all he's got. Whining like a bitch is all he brings to the table. He is not a strong person. Next, how bad slavery was. Is there a good way that slavery was? Like, what do you want? What do you want? I don't care what he wants, really, but I'm just saying, like, it's just this nonsense. How unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. I think there are plenty of things throughout history that are great examples of rags to riches or people overcoming hardships. A lot of the American heroes that were erased by the Pentagon that were black would have been great examples of that. So what do you want? You will eliminate examples of the downtrodden becoming accomplished if they're not white Americans. That's what this boils down to. The 7 museums that have so far been flagged for review include the National Museum of American History, the upcoming National Museum of the American Latino, the National Museum of Natural History, the National Museum of African Art, the National Portrait Gallery, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and the National Museum of Asian Art. So on the subject of art, one thing that I have heard people reference is that African American art museums should not feature anything that references slavery because that's for a historical museum. And for those of y'all that cannot accept that politics influence art, I don't know what to tell you. That's just kind of the history of art. And if you don't want to learn about the history of art, that's fine. Don't go to an art museum. That's perfectly fine. You are well within your rights if you don't want to learn about the history of the progression of certain types of art. That's fine. You do you. But to go to an art museum and be offended by what the artist created, it's these people who call everyone snowflakes and act like they're so tough who are offended by everything. Why does the rest of society need to bow to you? Because you are offended by everything. And yes, I realize that there are examples on the left of this as well. I am not in any way excusing that. Most of that stuff I do think goes too far as well. But influencers crying on a TikTok is a vastly different example than a United States president trying to tell history museums what they are and are not allowed to talk about. That's crazy. The administration argues exhibits at these museums focus excessively on oppression rather than American achievements. At the National Museum of American History, the document flagged the Presente Latino History exhibition for allegedly promoting an anti-American agenda by examining colonization efforts and depicting the U.S. as stealing territory from Mexico in 1848. Unless you can point to something that you have evidence to believe is factually incorrect, I don't want to hear it. I really don't. I don't care. This is so stupid. The fact that people genuinely expect all of society, including our universities and our museums, to bow down to this guy is unbelievable. Examples from the document also shames the museum's Benjamin Franklin exhibit for linking his scientific achievements to his ownership of enslaved people, which they already referenced. Now, if I am giving Trump just a little bit of benefit of the doubt here, okay, little bit, because I do think he's a white supremacist. I do think his supporters are excusing white supremacy. I have no patience for this stuff. But every now and then, I will see a display that unnecessarily references something like slavery. And I have no problem with slavery being referenced, spoken about, discussed, presented in historical accuracy. None of that is a problem for me. But every now and then I will see something where it's brought up where it's just not really relevant to what's at hand. But my issue is not that slavery was discussed at all. It's just a context thing. So if I were to go through and personally review every single Smithsonian exhibit, I would maybe find one or two sentences here or there that I would personally prefer to change. I don't think the museum should have to do what I want. I don't think the museum should have to do what Trump wants. But that's really like the only I'm trying to somewhat steel man, because I do feel like that's just a good way to have conversations. But at the same time, with Trump being at the center of this, I already know where he's coming from. He just hates certain types of people, and that's just the type of person that he is. That's who he's always been, and pretending otherwise is pretty crazy. I saw a video and I went to the comment section and I saw a couple of MAGA people comment something along the lines of, "Why isn't Trump allowed to have racist opinions?" Okay, let's just stop and just unpack that one before we even go any further. He's a United States president. Okay? So a racist ideology is no longer a matter of personal opinion, right? He's using his own ideology to inform his politics. Therefore, those politics influence what is actually done in this country to other people groups. For example, an executive order, I want to say it was his first couple months, eliminated a rule, federal contractors not being allowed to segregate. Yep, you guys support a pro-segregation president. Congratulations. So you could be out here saying, oh, he's entitled to his opinion, but he enforces his opinion on other people. You don't get to say it's just your opinion when you use that opinion to take away other people's rights or to try to eliminate history. I swear to God, it's always something. I was going to finish reading the article, but I'm tired and my computer just shut off. Hold on. Okay, yeah, my computer just shut off and everything's gone. So I guess I'm not finishing the article. I guess that kind of covered most of the basics that I wanted to get into. Like, I was really just curious about, okay, what specific exhibits are they taking issue with? I would like to do more research on this information. I want to see, like, the actual wording of some of this stuff. Like, what's the actual quote on the plaque that you have a problem with? But another thing to keep in mind is that whenever white folks get together and are like, people talk about slavery too much, we should stop it. That's white supremacy. That is white supremacy. You can pretend it's not racist. You can pretend you're not racist all you want to. It is racism 110%. And just to kind of prove the point, a lot of this support for Trump going through the Smithsonian and trying to eliminate stuff he doesn't agree with. First of all, you should never support a United States president doing that. You should never support any leader doing something like that. That's a really crazy thing to just be okay and comfortable with. That's very bizarre that you guys are all right with that. But I just want to say a lot of people who are supporting this are also the same people who are like, well, you can't remove Confederate statues. That's erasing history. It's erasing history, is it? God damn, we don't want to do that. Oh no, that would be bad. Like I said, is there a single shred of authenticity in your body? But that's really you can be pro-Confederate and that's preserving history. But if we talk about slavery, that's just attacking America and needs to go. 2 + 2 = 4. This is racism, plain and simple. There's no getting around it. You can stop making your stupid little arguments that this is not racism. Yes, ma'am, it is. And I'm not going to be shy about saying things like that anymore. It is wrong to be racist, and using race baiters and how much they frustrate you as some kind of an excuse is not justification. And that's kind of what I'm seeing from people who do support this and genuinely feel like they're not doing something wrong. Well, the left took it too far. That's not a good enough reason to support blatant white supremacy from the President of the United States of America. And for me personally, I remember reading about, segregation happening, 3-4 decades prior to me reading about it in school and going, how was society like this? I don't have to wonder anymore. I am not at all confused about how segregation happened. I am not at all confused about how concentration camps happened. I am not at all confused about how slavery happened. I'm not confused about any of it. People will choose to be depraved people, and they will choose to make the most ridiculous excuses for it. And it is absolutely crucial on a societal level that we call it out. that we do not sugarcoat it, that we do not look the other way, that we do not pretend it's not happening. This is a decent chunk of the American population supporting a United States president, telling a museum that they cannot support historically accurate things because he doesn't like it. That is a problem. And that is all I have for this video. If you enjoyed this video, half this video, or even just a quarter of this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe.